Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So I wanted to create a quick video to show you AutoDrive, which has been added back into FS22, but the first thing that you'll see is this new feature that didn't exist in FS19, which while not perfect is still really cool. So you see it asks us, should AutoDrive generate a route network from the traffic and helper data on the map? If you say yes, it does some pretty interesting stuff. Okay, so when you jump into any vehicle, you'll have the AutoDrive menu pop up. If it's not up, the keystroke is Alt and 0 on the number pad, and that will get that to appear. But for those of you who have used it in FS19, the keystrokes are the same. And so in the base interface at this point, we don't have any waypoints set up, so there's nothing that it'll auto drive to. But if you go ahead and put it in edit mode, you can now see we have these dots and these lines. So this is what was created with the auto road network. And I've driven this map a bit just to kind of look around. And, you know, I'll head this way because this is probably the closest thing. So as I said, it's not perfect in that it doesn't connect things at intersections. But for anyone who's done an AutoDrive road network before, you'll understand what a massive improvement this is, because I don't have to go down the main roads and generate all these tracks, which is what normally you'll do when you play a new map that hasn't had AutoDrive on it yet. And so there used to be folks who would share their AutoDrive networks that they built and so forth, and I'm sure that'll still happen, but this is a huge step forward. Now, aside from the intersections, you'll also notice it doesn't generate tracks for the secondary roads, and I've not seen any secondary roads that it's done anything for. So if you wanted to go ahead and do something here, you're still going to have to manually do it. So I'm going to use this to kind of show you how this feature works. So the simplest way to generate a track is to, again, go into edit mode here, and you can see as I hover over the buttons, the interface changes, so it kind of gives you a little bit of help as to what each button does. You'll want to hit the record button, and then you can just drive, and you can see it lays down the track. So what it's done on the roads is it's already in essence done this, where you don't have to manually do it. When you're done, you just hit left click that again, and you're complete. Now you can see I've got a line pointing to this last point. That allows you to do what they call create and edit the target. So if I go ahead and do that, and let's just say I call this field 50, you can see now it's labeled this as field 50. Now I have this in my list. So if I go ahead and connect up and continue driving, and build a network here. So I'm going to show you how to manually do some things here as I connect here. So I'm going to stop doing that. If you then use your keyboard and hold the left control key and then use your left mouse button, you can place waypoints on the map manually. And you can see that as I've done multiples, it connected them with a one-way connection. If I now let go of the control button and click, I can then connect these points together. So at this point, I've gone ahead and done that, and now I've created a track that basically goes into this one. And so that's what you would have to do here in the intersections. To connect these, you can either manually connect them, or you can go ahead and you can try to drive it. I personally think it's easier to manually connect things, just because it's hard to drive perfectly. So, you know, you can just go ahead and kind of create what you need to create here. And so, you know, you're going through figuring out what you want to do, and basically, you know, once again, we can go there, connect that straight point, and connect this to that. So you can see it's not really that hard to do that. Now, if I don't like the curve that I have here, I can use my right mouse button and I can just reposition these. So what will sometimes happen is when you create a network, this map's pretty open, but if you are towing implements regularly and there's obstructions, you may find that you get hung up on things. You don't have to delete the network and regenerate it or rebuild it. You just right mouse button, hold and drag, and that'll move things around. Now what if you've made a mistake and you don't want the path you have? You hold the Alt button and use the left mouse key, and that deletes the points. So Control places them. Without the Control button, just the mouse connects them. Alt and the left mouse button deletes them, and holding and dragging the right mouse button moves them. So, and to change the ability to move your perspective around, you use the center mouse button or the center mouse wheel. So in this case, I can move it around. If I click that, the arrow comes back and I can interact with the interface. So see, here we have a little bit of a challenge in that we're further away from the intersection. But if I go ahead and do that, because of the settings, it auto connects to the point I was pointing to. And you can see here now I can go ahead and turn, and around turns you can see it places the waypoints closer together. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to center click and I'm going to spin around so I can see both points, and I'm going to left click and connect. So I've now created a loop. So if I go ahead and now hit field 50 and now enable, whoops, I didn't create a loop because it doesn't connect to the secondary road. So let me finish things up. So it was a good example because you got to see kind of the error of what's going on. So you'll see that little red line it's pointing to the waypoints as it gets to them, and sometimes it'll jump across the street, so you've got to be careful which waypoint you're pointing to. So I'm going to go ahead and use that, and then it'll connect to this, and now I can create this connection and now cycle over here, and that's what was missing. So once again, I kind of need to get out of the way. So I'm driving after I hit my center button so that I can rotate. Now I connect. So now if I go ahead and do this, this is the beauty of AutoDrive if you've never done it. Now we're close to the point, so it's kind of going ahead and slowing down because it doesn't approach the points quickly. So we'll let it do that, and you'll see it gives you a message that the tractor has reached the location. If I go past it, because this is a one-way path, and now hit this, they're too close together because I think it's still pointing to it. So it's going to go ahead and try to find a way through. So there you go. I didn't pull far enough away. Normally this is what it would do. So you can see when it's normally driving, it'll get up to the max speed. Now around the turns you can see it's also slowing down, and I'm going to show you some features in the setup that explain what's going on here, and it will also allow you to control this. So on straightaways it'll go to the max speed, when it gets to turns, because again, if you're hauling a trailer, if you're hauling other things, you likely don't want to whip around the turn at 100% speed. So by default, it's set to slow down some. And so you can see and kind of get the idea of how this works, that once you've got the network on, you can go ahead and just let it run. Now, if you turn the edit mode off, it'll continue to function, and then what you'll see, you can see the arrow ahead of it. Again, these are all features you can disable and enable, but it kind of shows you where it's headed and what it's following. So I'm going to turn this back on so it's obvious. And we're back here. Now there's a lot more you can do with AutoDrive. I'm not going to cover some of the more advanced features here because there's more than enough to bury yourself in to begin with, just allowing yourself to get from one location to another. So these settings here, the speedometer, if I right click, you can see it lowers. If I left click, it raises to the max speed of the vehicle. So that determines how fast everything goes. So if I bring up the menu, which I can do with Control-Alt-0, or I can also do it with this gear, here you can see adjusting the corner speed. So it is interesting that this is actually set to 100, but it did slow down. So there may be something else that's impacting that. You can see there's settings here, such as avoiding fruit, allowing it to park in the field. We'll cover these when I cover more advanced features, exactly what they do, but you have a pretty good idea, and you can see as you hover over these, some of them have a help at the bottom, so it explains the combine unloader, which would be a tractor with a trailer that is unloading a combine, is going to try to avoid crop destruction. So that's important if you're playing a game where you have crop destruction turned on. You can let it set which tip side it's going to use on a trailer, whether it's going to use covers, and then what things look like. So again, the tool tips are whether they show up, the markers are whether they'll appear on the in-game map. So once again, if I go to the map, you can see I'm sitting on top of it, but there's an arrow that shows that I've got this field 50 mark there. Okay, so this auto connect start is the setting that connects the point. You can also then auto connect end, and you can have both turned on, you can have both turned off. So it just depends how you want to do it. And there's other things you can see. You can turn off driver wages. Folders are an advanced topic that, again, we'll take a look at when it's appropriate. So certainly, you can play around in the menu here and go through and look at that type of information. So you've got a route here, so let me go ahead and just show you a couple more things here which are of use, and then we'll wrap this up, because again, I wanted to keep this pretty basic and kind of a beginner of how to set up routes and then utilize them to drive. So if you want to go ahead and have a route, sorry, I hit the button. I'm not quite sure why it's doing that, because it should not. Let me just right click and drop that. There we go. Somehow when I was center clicking, it was treating that as if it was grabbing the point. So if I click and click in the opposite direction, again, it's a little hard to see, but you can see it became blue instead of green. Now if I reverse that, it'll go back to green because I've disconnected the directionality there. The other thing you can do, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. If you right-click on the record, you'll see it's now laying down a track in blue because it's now a bi-directional track. So I can turn that off. And once again, because I have auto connect on, it's connected these points. So I just click opposite them to get that path to go away. And then I just have the path that I can connect any way I want in the future. So I've gone ahead and edited some additional routes in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself to field 50. So you can see the tractor feels it has a path. The auto network generation had created this little piece over the river here, which was interesting, but I've gone ahead and connected it into the other parts of the road network because everything is one way on the streets, the way it auto-generated them. It's going to take us around and it's going to get us to that field. So at this point, the vehicle's gotten here. And so the benefit would be, for example, with what we set up, is if I wanted to get the tractor to my field, and let's say I own field 50, and let's say I had labeled this right, and it wasn't in between 40 and 41, that would get me here. But regardless of what it's called, you just need to know where your points are. And consequently, at the end of the day, when I'm done working, I can just go ahead, and because it's a one-way network again, yeah, I don't have a clear path to get to the barn. So you're going to find issues like that as you build your network. But your benefit will be, once you get things done, AutoDrive at a base level will do exactly what its name says. It will automatically drive things to places. Now, I'll be putting out other videos as more things become available, because frankly, once course play is available, which I'm hoping will be coming soon, there's more capability there as well. Now I am curious because this link should have gotten us there. So sometimes this is a good example of troubleshooting your network, because at this point now, if I hit barn, right, so I'm okay here. And you can always just hit that button and stop. But what you'll need to do is find out where your network is broken. So we're going to go ahead and head over here and turn around, because I would imagine at this point it still wouldn't work, but I might be proven wrong. Whoops, hit a button that I didn't want to hit. Okay, so at this point it knows where to go. So it actually is, there's a break somewhere earlier when we were disconnecting these. Did we somehow cause a problem? So I'm looking at those little green arrows and making sure that the arrowheads are pointing, and that we don't have at some point one going in the wrong direction. We don't. So this is a little bit troublesome, because at this point it doesn't look like we do have a problem, but let's see. Alright, so it says right now it can't reach barn. Can't reach barn from field 50. Can't reach barn from there. I have a feeling it's something we did up above, and there may be a, just like any song. Okay, so, oh, there we go. I see it now. See the arrow? When I was flipping things around, I created a path in the wrong direction. So I need to be able to see the dot. So let me pull forward. So if I click that, and then click and click and set it again. Now we'll just prove that we found our problem. We'll head back to where we were. Now you can see it has a path to the barn, because I had one segment that basically stopped the ability of the tractor to find a workable path in the network between one waypoint and the other. So at times as you're working on your routes, you're going to run into that. So that actually worked out well, because it allowed me to show you how that functions. But at a base level at this point, you've got the basics of what you need to get things set up. Now, the value of this at this point is probably less than it was in FS19 because of the intelligent workers feature that that FS22 provides with it in the base system. The difference here is obviously you can dictate exactly where things go. You can create your own waypoints, and you're not having to do it from the map and kind of estimate where things are. So he's reached the barn, and at this point, you could manually park the tractor and be ready to go. So there's definitely a lot more control you have going ahead and setting things up yourself. But at this point you may be thinking that it's of marginal value, but you'll start to see the benefit of AutoDrive in some follow-on videos I'll do showing some of the other features. But the challenge is a lot of the other features work really well when we have something like courseplay involved as well. So I may or may not go ahead and delve into that ahead of time. Hopefully this gives you some base understanding of AutoDrive. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll do my best to answer them or point you in the direction where you can do some further research. And I'll see you next time.